We'll start with Mr. Bakaya, who is a fun fact actually about him is he's a cyclist, and every month you will see him clocking a few hundred kilometers, if not more. So truly inspiration from that perspective. Mr. Bakaya, thank you for being here. The subject is survive, revive, and thrive, and I wanted to bring in the human angle with you actually. How is it that you at Sarovar Hotels are taking care of team members pre-COVID, during COVID, and now that we are exiting this period, and what is the plan with your employees?
Hi, Nikhil. Hi, Mr. Baljee, Anoop, Kavya. Is my audio good, Nikhil? Can you hear me clearly?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Vineet. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome aboard.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
We just kick started. So Nikhil, the question there's two things here. Thanks for your comments on the cycling. I think the way things are going, I could be cycling around the country for the next few days. But that apart, on the cost of talent and the human angle, I think it's the biggest churn in my lifetime of health, and it's going to be probably the single most difficult aspect to handle, other than the business itself. We started off in early enough, despite all the MHA directives, etc., by voluntary pay cuts. That was the easy thing to do at a corporate level, and also at units. That was April, May, and June. We are nearing the end of June, and what's happened is that the level of optimism, or the level of business optimism that we felt way back in March, or perhaps even in April, is diluted now. It's more than abundantly clear that the recovery is going to be more long drawn out than we'd anticipated. June is pretty much a washout. If we get to a 15-20% occupancy in most of our hotels in July, we think of that as, and if we get to 40 to 50 by October, November. So you think in Sarovar as a corporation, our policy for all our hotels is hang on to as many jobs as you possibly can. So perhaps deeper cuts, more of leave without pay, but as much as possible and as long as possible, hang on to jobs as far as you can. As most things go, we need to evolve on a day-to-day and a week-to-week and a month-to-month basis. There is very little clarity on how things are going at the level of the states. And I don't want to point a finger at anyone. I think the most difficult decisions to make at this point of time for any chief minister or the prime minister are how to handle this COVID scenario. And honestly, we don't know, because no one's ever handled it before. So the governments have done their own things. And there is a fair amount of confusion, which underlines the way we operate in this part of the world. And we've had some really, really funny ones. We've had a case in a hill state where the discussions with the CM were, well, let's allow people in, but only for work. That was the first one. Then said, well, let's allow people in as tourists, but they won't be allowed to leave their hotels. So it's a peculiar one. Why would anyone go to a leisure resort if he's locked into a hotel? Then he might as well stay locked in at his own place. There are quarantine restrictions of what happens if you go from one place to the other. There are borders opening and closing every second, third day. But I think we'll live through all of that. But to answer your question on the human angle, I think we are going to see a whole lot of anguish in this industry and in the hospitality industry in general. There will be lots of jobs, whatever we do. There are hotels that see no business for 6 months. There are some hotels that see no business or very little business for the best part of a year. And much as you'd like to keep everyone on board, it's not going to be possible. So when that happens, my way of doing anything is talk as much as possible face to face, and not through emails and memos or SMS messages or WhatsApp messages, and explain to people, bear yourself, go naked, tell them how things are. It's not that they can't see the writing on the wall. It's very clear. If the doors are shut, or even if doors are open and there's no guest coming in, we have a problem. And the problem doesn't seem to be one that's going to resolve itself in a hurry. So as long as we are open and transparent, and as long as we are following the same sort of things, top down. In this case, it's very important that whatever we do starts top down. So the deepest salary cuts are at the top. If people need to go, the ones at the top need to go. I mean, the churn has to start from the top rather than at the bottom end of the ladder. So as long as we are fair, we are transparent, we are honest. I haven't had a problem yet. I don't foresee problems on that front, but I think we'll have to show extreme empathy, extreme empathy and support, and in many cases, personal help to people. Thanks, Nikhil.
Thank you, Mr. Bakaya. Let me turn to Mr. Baljee, and who's also a avid morning walker, and probably the only vegan that I know of as a hotelier. Mr. Baljee, while Mr. Bakaya spoke of the human angle, you own assets, you manage assets, and you franchise assets. So you are actually in as an owner, operator, and as a franchisee. So my question to you is, how is it from a commercial and an operational turnaround? And what are the most critical pieces for you? And what is the hardest piece for you at the moment?
Yeah, I must start by saying that I can't beat Ajay Bakaya as far as the health regime is concerned, but I still keep trying. Okay.
You do very well.
Now, when this hit us, this thing, we never knew this will come so soon and so fast that everything lockdown and whatnot. So first thing first, that okay, all the contractual staff which were there, we asked them to leave because they're not required. And secondly, whatever probationers were there, we also asked them to leave. Uh, and one thing I must say that there was a unanimity amongst all the hotel groups. I spoke to Sarovar, I spoke to Pride, I spoke to everybody. Everybody said that there will be a cut ranging from 20% to 50% of the people who are, except for the people who are 15,000 below the minimum wage level, everybody will take a cut. And I think everybody took it in a very good spirit. So that has been a great support to us, so that our total wage bill went down by 50%. Of course, when you have zero revenues, that 50% also hurts, because you have because we own hotels also, we 11 hotels, so there's some lease rentals to be paid, well, TFCI has to be paid, and other banks have to be paid. Of course, I must admit that TFCI was the most supportive at that time when we called up TFCI, RICO, ICICI Bank. They said we'll give you a working capital limit, because irrespective of what others do, we'll give you a working capital limit to tide over this liquidity crisis, which I thought was very, very supportive of them. So this is what we have done now, and we are hoping that now things have opened. In fact, most of the hotels have opened on the 8th. Certain states where I don't know why. Remember Goa, we have 4 hotels in Goa, and they have remained shut. And they said they think about it on the 1st, and there's no COVID cases there in that state. But we don't have very much in Himachal Pradesh, but Himachal Pradesh continues to be shut also. So as Ajay had also mentioned, that there's a total chaos as far as quarantine rules are concerned. People don't know if they will travel, not to travel. Airlines have opened up, and I think whatever reports I've read in the papers today, that they are going at pretty good load factors. So I think things will come back as long as this quarantine issue is resolved, and the fear factor. So I think I'm a little optimist that okay, by September we should leave this thing behind, and things should be normal. Of course, one of the things which is going to happen is that Indians are not going to travel abroad, so they're going to come to our resorts and hotels. And of course, the other thing is that foreigners are not going to come. So that's also going to be a hit as far as the winter season is concerned. So a lot of business travel used to happen in the month of October to March, which will probably dwindle. It will not happen. People are got used to going as much work on Zoom calls, work from home, and all sorts of things. So I think there's going to be a challenge. But challenges, after all, we are in business, we have to face challenges, and this is one of the most unprecedented challenges. So we are ready for that. That's all I can say.
So, Mr. Baljee, I mean, I must appreciate the the recipes that you have been sending out personally on behalf of your organization during the lockdown period. And I must say that at least some of us have tried some of the recipes that you've sent. So compliments from that, and for making sure that your team is busy. But I am still going to try and pin you. What has been the most difficult piece for you in reviving the business now that the lockdown is mostly done and over with?
See, the challenge is now, and I found that okay, hotels open 2 days back or whatever it is. People have got used to that laid back attitude. In fact, I had to give a piece of my mind to some of the hotel people. I say, "अब hotel खुल गया है. Now you have to do something. You know, it can't be on a cost-cutting mode also. Because I say, suppose I give an example. Just suppose you were to open a hotel. You'll be everything ready, front office, housekeeping, everything will be tip top, and you'll have zero guests per day. So think of it as that situation that you are opening a new hotel, but be everything ready. So I think that is a we have to take them through the slumber. It may take about week or so to
Mhm.
take them. But then it is disheartening for them also. If you have 2 rooms occupied, 3 rooms occupied, you get bored also. So that is the challenge that to keep the staff morale high when they are getting maybe 40 to 50% less salary, they have their commitments. Now school colleges are opening, so they'll have their fees commitment, they'll have all that. So I think they're keeping the morale high, but we are looking at that okay, the matter of 2 or 3 months, and they know that we are also facing a lot of stress. And I think this should come back. To my mind, things are moving up. And Indians by and large, are very resilient. They're not that scared or paranoid as what these current countries are. I know there was a bomb blast in Bangalore in front of Forum Mall. Vineet might know about it a couple of years back. And at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a bomb blast, and by 7 o'clock, everybody was walking around the mall and inside as if nothing has happened. So, we people are not that scared. So, I think in India, you've seen when it's opening up, the way people are crowding around to malls and stuff like that have already started, I think. So, I think, it's a matter of just a matter of a month when things will die down. And of course, unless we have a what's it called double kind of a recovery where things collapse. But if things do not collapse, there is not a relapse on that. I think we should be through in 3 months' time. Yeah, good. We may not be like last year figures in Q3 and Q4, but even if we are 30-40% less, we are okay because we realigned our costs also to that extent. If a hotel is not going to offer that much F&B, and F&B is the major cost today, that means we have reduced our overhead by almost one third. And if we reduce our overhead by one third, then if the revenues are also reduced by one third, we are okay. We're not too badly off.
Right, right. Thank you. Let me turn to Mr. Bali, also known as Mr. Moneyman in our industry. Mr. Bali, I mean, there is a lot of chatter of hotels closing down. The hotel in Mysore that closed down, which was extremely popular in the 70s and 80s, has made a lot of noise and splash across our industry. And you have journalists asking the same question: are you going to see more NPAs? Are you going to see more small hotels closing down? So, in that advent, do you see the financial charts realigning regards hotel funding? What's your view on this, sir?
As everybody knows, hotels have been badly impacted with this COVID, and this is a fact. And this sector will take some time to revive because this sector depends on other sectors' performance also. If the economy is good, the hotels generally do well. But since the overall economy is disrupted, so the hotel business is also disrupted. But as far as our assessment is concerned, we are hoping that from November end, the sector will start showing signs of improvement. So basically, this year will be 4 months of business. Occupancy will be somewhere around 25 to 30% overall for the country, not beyond that. So this year will be a tough time for the sector. And uh, for this tough time, the hotels will have to reinvent. They have to reduce cost. And as far as the support is concerned, government has come out with 2-3 policies, and one is that interest funding for 6 months and deferment of principal for 6 months. This is a RBI policy, which I think most of the lenders have given effect to. Second is government has modified the definition of MSME sector and brought services into MSME, by virtue of which any hotel which has a turnover up to 250 crores and investment in plant of machinery of 50 crores is eligible for additional funding, provided their outstanding loan as on 29th February was 25 CR. So they are eligible for 5 crores of assistance from their lenders, which has to be repaid in a period of 4 years. So this is two benefits. Then there are two schemes which have been announced. One is subordinated debt scheme, where if a hotel is not able to meet its financial commitment, so government has announced a 20,000 crore subordinated debt scheme, where the final blueprint has yet to come out, which will be available to hotels. So it will be a form of a subordinate debt, so collateral-free debt. The fourth scheme is funds of fund scheme, where the government will participate in equity of the hotel. So these two schemes, the final blueprints are. So beyond that, I think in terms of NPA or accretion of NPA,
Yeah, I think Mr. Bali, we can't hear you.
Problem with the audio?
I think we've lost him. So by the time he comes back, let me shift focus to Mr. Verma, who is the pillar of South Indian hospitality. We all know him as Brigade, but a lesser known fact is that he was the pioneer and resurrected the Royal Calcutta Turf Club for over 2 decades. So, Mr. Bali's back. So, Mr. Verma, can I just finish with Mr. Bali and come back to you if that's okay?
Yeah, certainly. No problems.
Thank you. Mr. Bali? Sorry, I think he's still static. So, Mr. Verma, let's just continue. So you operate under your own flags. You operate the convention center, and there's a lot of conversation of MICE not coming back, or at least not in the short to medium term. And of course, you partner with international brands as well. So, in your view, how are you dealing with the challenges of any debt, any labor that you have, laws, or um, what is the outlook that Brigade Hospitality has on the various segments that you operate in?
Thanks, Nikhil. Actually, just like everybody else, we are also going through some terrible times. And more so particularly because we have a cross-section of projects and products, starting from lifestyle clubs to convention centers to institutional catering, for example, like we were producing about 16,000 meals a day for clients like Amazon, Microsoft and all. And of course, we have 8 operating hotels, and all of them were shut during the lockdown period. So times have been bad. And as far as the challenges are concerned, just like everybody else has faced also, that, because the business revenues dropped to near zero across all our properties. So how do we manage?
Yes.
So the only option available was to look at the fixed costs of the hotel, because operating revenues have dropped to zero. So what do we do with the fixed costs? So as most of you already know, that there are 3 primary fixed costs that we have to look at. One, of course, is the energy, HLP as we call. The other one, of course, is the manpower. And then, of course, we have this huge cost on AMCs, maintenance costs, annual maintenance contracts and various other contracts. So in terms of priority, we started looking at reducing the fixed costs first in terms of HLP and others, because reducing manpower was the last resort. We wanted to avoid it as far as is possible. But unfortunately, the way things went on from lockdown 1 to lockdown 2 to lockdown 3, we had no other option but to look at manpower rationalization as well. And that is where we received a lot of support and cooperation from all our international operators. As you know, we operate with Marriott, IHG, Accor. Each one of them stepped forward proactively. So we have essentially addressed the manpower rationalization in 3 different categories. So we have looked at, of course, as Mr. Baljee also confirmed, that the entire contractual staff, the outsourced staff, was the first one to be discontinued with. And we introduced multitasking with the permanent staff of the hotel. So some of the permanent staff took over those responsibilities, whether it be housekeeping, whether it be kitchen stewarding, whether it be security, etc. Second, of course, was in terms of voluntary cut in salaries across the board. And we set an example by first doing so within our own corporate office. Before asking even the hotels to do so, we ourselves took huge cuts, starting from myself. In fact, our chairman also took a cut himself. So that's how we started the ball rolling. Ultimately, it flowed into the hotel operations teams also. So on the average, we have also reduced our manpower cost by nearly 50% in the long term. But as far as the short term is concerned, because we don't see the hospitality really growing or taking up business as usual for the next at least 3 to 4 months, we have also sort of requested some of our people to furlough for the next 1, 2, 3 months. So the idea is that for the next 3 months, which I believe are going to be the toughest for all of us, we've actually gone down, taken our manpower cost down to nearly 70 to 80%, by 70 to 80%.
Wow.
But that's only for the short term.
Wow, that's big.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes. Please continue.
Yes.
I just got this warning on the top that. So as far as the manpower is concerned, that's what we did. In terms of our other costs, also we have been very aggressive. In fact, I personally work very closely with the government of Karnataka, and I've been regularly meeting the chief minister and the tourism minister and the tourism society, where we have been able to get some relief in terms of fixed charges. The ESCOMs, the BESCOM charges. There's a certain minimum demand charges which are fairly high, and when you have an empty hotel, doesn't make sense for you to pay those fixed charges. So the government has been kind enough. They have already waived those, deferred it for the next 2-3 months. Similar to that, in terms of our debt for the hotels, of course, most of us have debts on our books. The moratorium that has been given for the next 6 months, I call it a very expensive moratorium for us, because it's something that we have had no option but to take it, because we are left with no other option. At the same time, it's a huge copper bell round our necks for the next few months. Our tenures have gone up by nearly 8 to 10 months, and the interest outflow is going to be much higher. But then, unfortunately, we've had no other option. So, having said that, we have also been looking at various other ways of sort of augmenting our revenues for our hotels. Now that we've opened from the 8, in fact, of the 7 hotels that we have, we opened 6 of them from 8. But the response has been pretty tepid. It's a very lukewarm response. I think people are still a little scared about stepping out or entering a hotel, despite all of us having put SOPs in place. We have actually been uploading videos on the social media about all the measures that we have taken. But again, as I mentioned, that most of our, at least the business hotels that we run in Brigade, nearly 50 to 60% of our business actually comes from international travelers. Let's say our Sheraton Grand, nearly 50% of my business comes from international travel. Now, international travel, unless it starts, I cannot hope to even get those customers. So is the case with our domestic flights. Domestic flights today are also very controlled. You have this quarantine rule, you have the other things. So I don't think that until we really open up the domestic and international travel, that at least the business class hotels are really going to benefit out of this. So what we are left with is to make the best of whatever we have available with us. As Mr. Baljee also said, in my 8 of my 7 of my hotels, I have basically 4 rooms, 5-room occupancy. But I'm having to run the entire hotel for just those 5 guests. I have no other option. In terms of F&B, again, very limited. Most of us have been actually now going aggressive on takeaways and home deliveries. But that, you see, the revenues that you generate from that are insignificant. They're not even a drop in the ocean as far as our overall plan of things are concerned. But yes, we have had to do that. So challenges, this has been a very challenging time, and as most of our employees have taken it very well. But according to me, I feel that it's going to take quite a while. I beg to differ slightly with Mr. Baljee on this, that situation may not improve until you have really found a cure for this virus. Until you found a vaccine or a cure, people are not going to freely travel. There's always going to be this little stigma attached to it of being found positive, what happens. So we are prepared that at least the business is not going to come back to normal, at least for the next 12 to 18 months, according to us.
Right. Mr. Verma, your view on MICE, because you are your spread is large on the convention center side. So what is your view on MICE before I dovetail this question back to Mr. Bakaya
See, as
on
far as
institutional?
yeah, Nikhil. No, as far as MICE is concerned, as you know, that
Please go ahead.
we have two convention centers, we have thousands of square feet of banquet space across our hotels, but that is going to be indeed a big challenge. Occupancies, because of the social distancing, at least for the next year or two, social distancing norms, our occupancies are going to drop by nearly 50%. On the other hand, we also have this rule of not more than 50 people in a banquet. So, I mean, these are challenging times. Honestly, I have no clear visibility on what's going to happen to MICE going forward. Honestly, I have no visibility. The reason is also because most of us have now learned to use the digital media. For example, your conference today, ideally, it should have been hosted at one of our hotels, but we are doing it online. So, and that's the way forward. I think most of us are going to avoid. Earlier, we used to avoid non-essential travel, primarily for corporate budgeting reasons. But now we are going to stick to only critical travel. All non-critical travel is going to stop, according to me. I'm sorry, I'm sounding a bit pessimistic on the travel front, but we have to obviously find other innovative ways of making do. For example, I'm very upbeat on the domestic tourism front. I think this is time when India can take full advantage of domestic tourism. But as far as MICE is concerned, I think the jury's out. We'll have to wait and watch what happens.
Right. So just before I go to Mr. Bakaya, Mr. Bali is back. Mr. Bali, do you want to continue the flow of thought that you had and you got cut off? So.
No, I just want to add that these are the schemes which have been announced, and most of the lenders are working on it. But then things have to be slightly more difficult for all the hoteliers. Maybe next 12 months are the critical period where only the good will survive. The hotels which were not performing well earlier, they have to work out some strategy, either to bring in a co-investor or to sell. So I think this is what is going to happen for those which were not performing well. But those hotels which were performing well will come out of this crisis maybe after 6, 7, 8 months. So this is the support which is required, and most of the lenders will give that support to a good client.
And how is TFCI going to be enabling this, sir? If you could just speak a little bit about that before I move.
Yeah, we see we have already given the 6 months moratorium to all our clients in the hotel sector. All our clients who are qualifying under MSME scheme, we have also written to them saying if we require funding, we are willing to do that funding. So this is what we are doing. Thirdly, our hotels which are on floor, which are under implementation, we are supporting them and we'll make them complete because their completion time is spread over 12 to 18 months. So by the time we are hopeful that this crisis will be over. So when they open, they will be back into business. So we are supporting them. This is what exactly we are doing as of now. And once the other schemes are launched, which is funds of fund scheme or equity or subordinate debt scheme, will also help our clients to basically get that money from the government schemes.
I think Mr. Bakaya has a question for you.
Yeah, Anoop, I have a very direct question for you. We spent a lot of time over the last 3 months lobbying governments both at the center, predominantly at the center. And what we said was, look, we guys are dead. We are in ICU on ventilators now. Give us a 1-year moratorium on principal and interest. So if I have simply have a 10-year loan, make it 11 years, but for these 12 months, I don't pay anything. And we really worked hard on this one. And at the end of the day, we got first a 1 quarter and then a 2nd quarter, not sector specific to hospitality, but it applies to hospitality just as much. So now I've got a scenario where I've got a 6-month waiver as far as principal repayment is concerned, but the interest is clocking in every day. Now, our view is that, look, yes, it's a help, but no, it's not such a big help. Especially if I'm a young lender, I've loaned in the last 4 or 5 years, I've just opened my hotel, my interest component is huge. Where am I going to bring in the money after the 6 months to pay that interest? And does it really serve the interest of the bank to say, well, I want my money? Because won't you be landed with more NPAs, or guys just saying, hey, I don't have the money to pay you? What is the solution? What's your thought on this?
See, we all work under certain guidelines. So we are also regulated by RBI. So we have to follow their guidelines. So as far as RBI has permitted, it has only permitted 6 months. Though we have also lobbied hard, saying them that allow one-time restructuring of loans. Unfortunately, as of now, it has not been permitted. So, but we are still hopeful. Maybe after another 3 months, they may come out with a policy allowing restructuring of loans. Then we can restructure. But coming to what you're saying, what the interest we are funding, it is not to be payable immediately after the end of 6 months. If it's a working capital loan, it is payable by the end of the year. If it's a term loan, you can phase it out maybe over 3 or 4 years, whatever period you like. So that comfort is there for the owner to pay off that interest which has accrued during this period and fund it. So it is not immediately payable. Yeah, it is accruing. I'm not saying it is not accruing, but it is you have to pay only over the period of next 3 to 4 years.
Nikhil, you need to unmute.
You, oh, it does say on.
Yeah. Now we are able to
You're
hear.
muted. Yeah, now you're okay.
All right. Okay. So, Mr. Bakaya, my question is actually to you. This probably I can't ask you this, but I can ask you on a panel discussion. Where do you see the new supply coming in? You see smaller operators coming to brands like Royal Orchid, Sarovar, for branding, and what is your view on that?
Before I dive into that one bit of information. We are now lobbying very strongly with the states and the center to amend this policy of maximum of 50 people. It's 50 people if I have 500 square feet, it's 50 people if I have 5,000 square feet, it's 50 people if I have 25,000 square feet. So it's not logical, and perhaps enough thought hasn't been given.
Right.
So we are now saying link it to square footage, so at least the larger places can handle bigger numbers. Otherwise, 50 people for a banquet hall makes very little sense. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so, we should get some answers somewhere, both at the level of the MHA and then at the level of the states. Now, on the business of will hotels go running to brands? It's firstly, brands have certain standards and certain minimum sizes, etc., that they look at. And even though they might want to dilute some of those things because times are tough, I think if you want to retain the brand magic, you need to retain your standards, the basic standards. So you wouldn't necessarily be looking at anything that comes to you for help. Secondly, the owner perception is that any of these deals cost him a lot of money. So unless we are ready to re-engineer and readapt and offer him deals that make sense for him, I don't see owners rushing to brands at all. Yes, brands will hold the key to an extent, and brands with larger network will hold the key. At the same time, OTAs provide another channel of business, perhaps at a higher short-term cost, but there is that business channel available. So maybe the demand for brands goes up perhaps 10 or 20%, but I don't see a dramatic rush to hotel brands saying, please save me. Because he would, I see owners more rushing to Anoop Bali and their bankers and saying, "Hey, save me from drowning," than coming to the brands.
Okay,
And
where
does
do you
the
see
business
supply?
come from?
Yes.
I see supply from domestic tourism as all of us see it, or from the domestic traveler. We have close to 24, 25 million people that used to travel overseas all the time. Indians, wealthy Indians, they have been locked up in their homes. I disagree with Vineet. I think people have to get the hell out and start meeting other people. They have to make a move, because it's going to be six months in a dream case scenario, 36 months in a bad case scenario that we have a vaccine that everybody has. So I don't see ourselves shutting down for that period of time. For one, I have started traveling. I've been on the road to Agra. I'm off to Chandigarh tomorrow. I'm off to Jaipur next week, and that's life. And I'm we're limiting to 2 people plus a driver in a car, but life's got to go on. We are not, and I can't stay at home and look at the same walls all the time. So I think more and more people will travel. Leisure will be preferred as a choice for travel, and leisure that's easy driving distance from a city is better. If I can get somewhere in 2, 3, 4 hours, and perhaps for a youngster 5 or 6 hours from my home, it's the safest form of travel. And honestly, I don't see many places safer than hotels with all the protocols that we put in place for a COVID scenario. We also have to get very used to the fact that people around you, people in your team, people in your hotels will test COVID positive.
Yes.
It's not one of those boo-boo things. And if it happens, you need to know how to handle it. I've had one in my hotel. I've had 8 cases in the same hotel.
And how have you handled them?
Well, we reported to all the authorities from day one, and that's a difficult task in itself. Two of them were recommended to go to hospital. They went to hospital. They're both out of the hospital now. The other 6 we self-quarantined. We took our decision in the hotel. We gave them 6 independent rooms. 1 or 2 had very mild symptoms. They're all clear now. And today is the 11th. On the 14th, they walk out and they start working. And the first girl who tested positive went to the hospital, came out of the hospital, came straight to work, came to the hotel, danced away and said, I'm ready to work again. So, and I think we need more and more of that. People will fall sick, and perhaps you're looking at a mortality rate of 1%. 85, 90% of people won't even know they're fallen sick. So I think more and more we have to live with that situation. It's not going away in a hurry. And we need to be totally sensitive. We told our staff we will support them in every possible way. We made sure that anyone not covered by ESI, etc., is well covered by a group medical insurance. So there is no problem of who is going to pay for the charge if somebody has to go to hospital. And I am hopeful and I'm optimistic that more and more people would think on those lines, and more would start getting out as time goes on.
Excellent. Mr. Baljee, can I
and
you have to unmute yourself, Mr.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Bakaya, I think we're losing you.
Yeah, I feel that with this shakeout, one of the things which is going to happen is there were a lot of unbranded or even a big brand which has come in to small guest houses, small apartments which have been logos put there. Now the safety angle in those places are a little suspect. And I think all these people took a lot of business from the organized sector. Now is the time to see that, okay, the organized sector is putting out, and FHRI also is putting out all the SOPs which are required for prevention of COVID. But I think we people would, when a person is traveling, would you like to go to a house, whether it's Airbnb or anything like that, or he like to go to a branded hotel, where he would like to, he knows that all the sanitation things are taken care of. So I think we need to, as hoteliers, play on this today, so that, because that number is very large, the unorganized sector is very large. So we can get some business back from them, which is over the years we have gone to these guys, let's say, and all of you know which brand I'm referring to. So I would say that we need to do that to get that business back, and that's why I'm not that pessimistic. But of course, government rules, as you were saying, this 50 person rule. I just got a call from my Dehradun hotel. The hall is 10,000 square feet, and they've allowed 50 people. But they said that no, the rule says 50 people wedding, but not in hotels. It has to be other than hotels. So I think there's a total confusion there. So he doesn't know, he's running around to take even that 50 people wedding, he's running around to take that in that huge hall, but he's not being allowed. So I think, but this will clear up, I think, in a little while, because there's a total confusion. Every state has their own way, and every Babu has his own way of interpreting the rules. So I think a matter of this whole month, we have to bear the 2-3 weeks or so. The rules will come more clear. Like people were to come into Bangalore, they were subjected to quarantine. Now they said that no, if they have got a test report, then they can come here for a 7-day visit. They don't have to go quarantine. So they are gradually learning. These people are also learning and relaxing. So I think let's don't lose heart for another 1 month or so, and then let's look at a better next quarter kind of a break even kind of a situation, and then maybe Q3 and Q4 a little bit of positive, some little profit that we can make, and then maybe we can repay Mr. Bali during that period, at least the interest part of it. Yeah.
So we have just under 7 minutes for this session to end, and I would like us all to conclude and have the panelists some time to conclude. So on that note, if Mr. Bali, firstly, could I just request you for some words of advice on financial planning that you would recommend to hotels and to owners, and your concluding remarks, please.
Well, I think this problem is there to continue for some time, and we'll all open up slowly. We are opening up slowly. The business will also start picking up. The only thing is right now for all the hoteliers to reinvent, open up limited areas and try to reduce cost. Whatever is the business, open to that extent and do the business. Try not to have any operating loss. I'm saying only gross operating loss. And I think for some time, the interest has already been taken care by your lender by giving you a moratorium. Hopefully, RBI may rethink and allow restructuring, which will be better. And that's all. I think business will come down back 6 to 7 months down the line. Business will be there for all the hoteliers to come back. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Verma, do you see asset management going forward as in Brigade? What is the future that you're predicting for Brigade, and your closing remarks, please, sir?
I think as far as our hotels are concerned, we are going to reinvent, innovate. As I mentioned earlier, that we are probably trying to figure out some alternate uses of our hotel spaces. Certain spaces, for example, there are some excess because of the forecasted occupancies. We're actually actively looking at converting some of our rooms into temporary offices and leasing them out. Same case with the smaller meeting rooms. Because of the social distancing norm, the smaller meeting rooms have become redundant. So what do we do with that? So that, in a sense, is what we are looking at, alternate uses. And I think that's the way forward. And just to respond to Ajay's comment, no, Ajay, I'm not against what you're saying. In fact, there's a saying in Hindi called "Aapke muh mein ghee shakkar." अगर अगले 2-3 महीने में अगर turnaround होता है, तो all of us are going to be equally happy. But having said that, with a word of caution that we are prepared to take it to the long haul. And let's say, as I mentioned, about next 12 to 18 months, I see that things don't really turning around. In the meanwhile, I think we'll have to keep good control on our costs. At the same time, what I firmly believe and what we have been doing in our group as well is that in terms of manpower rationalization or salary cuts, we are trying to do this as humanely as possible. In fact, what we have also done is we have set aside a special helpline. People we have furloughed, people we have laid off, or people we have asked to exit, they are still in touch with us. They are welcome. In fact, we have extended the medical cover to them even if they have left the company till the end of this financial year. So we are trying our best. We are also trying with our placement services for them. In case we have asked them to give our names as references. We are giving them good references because obviously they have been asked to exit not because of any performance issue. So we have taken these human measures, and that's the way we are trying to address the situation, keeping our fingers crossed. And finally, as far as the 50 packs banquet rule is concerned, I think it is actually quite baseless. In fact, I know of a hotel who has actually been taking in 150 packs and generating 3 bills of 50 packs each. These are things which are not correct because ultimately it's after all our own safety. So I think the best approach, as we said, is let us approach the government, show them the reason, because let's say in terms of we have malls. So in retail malls also, they have the same rule, not more than 4 people in a shop. Now, let's say a shop will stop extending over 10,000 square feet, only 4 people inside, doesn't make sense. So they have actually relented there. So they have now made use. So similarly, we have to make a similar approach in terms of hospitality. But having said that, fingers crossed, let's hope we turn the whole thing around and we are back to normal as soon as possible.
Right.
So one of the things which I'd like to say is that, yes, this has been a big crisis, but it's not all that bad. Suppose there was a tsunami or an earthquake, then our properties would not have been also there. So look at the brighter side. Our properties are still intact. And okay, business has gone down by 3 or 4 months. If there was a war situation or there was any other situation, now we've had that cyclone coming in or whatever it is there. So I think there's something to cheer about. I think they're not all that bad as it could have been worse. So I think 3 or 4 months pain is there, half year pain is there, or 1 year is lost. In a lifetime, okay, 1 year is lost, big deal. We've had problem in 2008. We had a problem, and for 3 4 years we had big losses, and that time our debts were very high, and now fortunately debt level is manageable. So I think we should all start looking at a little better thing also, and live in hope. What's the point on just being so and blaming everything on the government? I'm sure we will be able to. I think India still done better than what other countries have done. I have my son lives in London, pathetic situation. My sister lives in US, very bad situation. Friends in Dubai, pathetic situation. So I think we're not all that bad, and our government has done reasonably well. In fact, I say I'm proud that Karnataka has done very well. So, and we have got large presence in Karnataka, so we are quite safe. So I think there's something to cheer about, and I think we've got good people like Anoop Bali and some financial institutions are proactive in helping us out. Okay, with that, thank you.
Mr. Baljee is the doyen of our industry, and such words of encouragement
you,
from
Mr.
him have gladdened our heart.
Mr. Bakaya, your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Baljee. We need to have a huge amount of positivity, more so in a crisis scenario, and we all need to remain positive. We are through the association fairly active in trying to get some benefits to our hotels in both at the level of the center and the states, and we're hopeful some more small concessions might come through. On the side of the owner, well, we've gone through a tremendous amount of training. We've gone through training on protocol, huge amount of trainings otherwise that we could do because everyone was far too busy. And we've taken off the edge in terms of staff handling because we've been handling that on behalf of the owner. So I think we have a happy medium there. Also, even at my level, I used to spend at least 20% of my time chasing money. It's one of the flaws in the system as we operate in India that you have to always ask for your money and keep asking for you to get it. I haven't made a single call in the last 3 months, and I think I won't be making any for the next month or 2 or 3. So that's our help to our owners, and we are there for every kind of possible support at this point of time. We want to make sure they sail through smoothly. Thank you, Nikhil.
Thank you, all the panelists. So very, very positive words. The sun is still shining. I think while we'll all follow the white rabbit into the hole, hopefully it's going to be positive all in the end. Thank you. Be awesome, everyone. And thank you for your time. Thank you.